Welcome to episode 21 with my cousin, Vickie Simos, who is the founder of Theloactive, which we'll share more about shortly. Well, thank you for joining me today, Vickie.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's lovely to meet you finally and speak to you versus just on socials, Facebook and Instagram. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. No, it's as we were saying before, I'm so glad to finally meet you. I know we've talked on Facebook, but I've never actually met you. So it's funny that Vickie lives in Australia, and some of our family went to Australia, some went from Greece to New York, and so it's amazing how technology can unite family.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. Smartest thing, what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg did with his Facebook and all this other social media and technology that you can actually speak to anyone, anywhere.
Oh, it's amazing. And actually, random question. I'm curious. So living in Australia, we see all the crazy animals and everything, like the saltwater crocodiles and the. Is it really that crazy out there?
No. The short answer is no. It depends where you live. So
Okay.
Darwin, you'll see, crocodiles. Where I am in Melbourne, Victoria, unless you visit, which is one of the bigger cities under Sydney, and I'm sure most of your audiences or viewers have heard of Sydney. Unless you're travelling to the zoo, you're not really going to see any sort of jumping kangaroos. Well, you can, depending on if you go country town of Melbourne. We have seen a few. If, for example, you're going to drive Melbourne to Adelaide, but no, they don't just come out in your backyard. You'll probably come across some snakes, but again, it depends on what area you're living in, especially in the heat. They want to stay cool as well. So, yeah, just depends
Nice.
on what area you're living in. Where I grew up, which was country town out of SA, you would see lizards and snakes and there were wildlife parks and stuff that you would see, the different animals, koalas, a
That's so
kangaroo.
cool.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by Australia. And how hot does it get there? Is it like kind of similar to Greece in the summer?
No, the sun is a lot lower here, so it gets a lot hotter and it's a dry heat. Whereas in Greece, overseas, the sun's a bit higher, so it probably won't burn you as much. But again, depends on the area. Like I used to work in the mines, which is definitely desert, and that could get up to the 50s, which, yeah, you'd have to convert it. I don't know, yeah, just hot. Let's just
Ah,
say
yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
really hot. So our average degrees, let's just say at the moment today, for example, it's 32 degrees and it's
Okay.
very humid and hot. But in the mines, like I was saying, it could get up to your 50s. And if you're working underground, if not more.
Wow, that's insane. It
And
definitely
there
is.
you would see some amazing animals and wildlife. Like I did see a tail-wedged eagle and these things. You should do some research. I'll
Really?
leave it to your viewers because their wings are massive. The bird stands like a small toddler.
Whoa. And the wingspan, I'm
Oh,
imagining.
massive. I remember
Wow.
walking past and went, what have I just seen? Hang on, let me go back again. And yeah,
Wow. I'm gonna Google
amazing.
that. After this, I'm gonna search
Do
that.
that. Do
That's
that. Thank
cool.
God.
So I was gonna ask you to take it way back and explain where did you grow up in Australia and then a little bit about your fitness journey, how you got into fitness.
Okay, so I grew up in a small country town called Barmera, which was 222 kilometres north of Adelaide, surrounded by Greeks as well, a lot of Greek community. I then moved to the city of Adelaide when I was 19. Although while I was still living in the country, I did start doing Taekwondo, which is a traditional martial art karate. The reason I started karate was for the boy that I liked. So that's when my journey started and the reason behind it. That said, then I moved to the city and my journey in martial arts, fitness sort of stopped there. I started playing soccer. Martial arts stopped there. Fitness continued. So I started playing soccer. I played for about 5 years. I did pretty well. Was a goalkeeper. And then at the age of about 25, got back into the martial arts and then really never stopped. I actually started because rumour had it that he could help you attain your black belt. So I was on the like brown belt, black stripe. I don't know if your viewers know about karate, but it works in belts. So I was only going to stay for 6 months. 11 years later, because he was like multidisciplined, I learnt pretty much all the arts and
Wow.
competed not only nationally but also internationally. And then stayed with him, like I said, for about 11 years. Took another little break. then continued with the boxing, and then moved to Melbourne in 2016. Found another instructor, and I've been with him, yeah, since I've been here basically. So boxing has been my love, but I am competent in, karate, kickboxing, stick fighting, and obviously I have done a bit of jiu-jitsu, which I'd like to continue. Did a couple of years of that. What have I missed to karate? Karate, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, boxing, and kickboxing. Yeah, so competent in four, like to continue the fifth.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Look, exceeded all expectations because all I wanted to do was get my black belt in one, and ended up with two black belts, a second degree in Ajay Kampo Karate, which is the karate which has a sister gym in America. Van Nuys, there's a gym there called House of Champions, and my original instructor and that instructor combined, and they designed this karate. And then the Doce Paras the Screamer, which is AKA stick fighting, which is a Filipino martial art. I'm a fourth degree in that.
That is so cool. I didn't
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah. What a surprise.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, two black belts and then fourth degree in the stick fighting, the
Fourth
Filipino.
degree in the stick fighting and second degree in the Ajakampo karate.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot to unpack there.
A lot of work, my friend, to get those degrees.
Yes, you know a lot about discipline for sure. So, what inspires you to get back into martial arts after getting into soccer? After, you did karate, soccer, sports. What made you get back into martial arts?
Well, I didn't, my run playing soccer sort of ended on a negative. So basically, had a politics got in the way with anything, I guess, like soccer, like boxing, and yeah, I had some sort of interactions with parents and people on the board and whatnot. So ended up leaving. So then yeah, it was like I really need something, possibly more for my mental health, which I didn't even know at the time. And then I really wanted to get my black belt. And then so I used to drive past this gym. It was really quite funny. Drive past it, drive past it. I used to think, I've got to stop there. Something sort of was pulling me towards there. So I stopped one day and had a chat to the trainer, instructor, and then just started going sort of once a week. And then my words to him was, I'm never going to step in that ring. I'm just coming here to get my black belt. Obviously that didn't happen. Went completely the opposite. And yeah, like I said, a run of 6 months turned into 11 years. He was hardcore though. He was very unorthodox. In a good way. It was something that I obviously needed. And while other people, I suppose, looking out to in would say, oh my God, that was hard. What were you thinking? Because he wasn't for the soft hearted. You
As you
had to
can touch.
really, I saw a lot of people come and go.
Really?
But I
So, like,
guess at the time, I really needed that. Yeah,
so he was just really hard on the people that trained with him?
absolutely. So I'll give you an example of a session. It was 1 hour on a Tuesday, Thursdays, for example. You would do a 20-minute warm up, which included 10 of 10 of push ups, 10 of 10 of sit ups, 10 of 10 of squats, 10 of 10 of push ups if you felt like it again, which equated to 400 just of, that strength training.
Yeah.
And then you would do pad work, bag work. And if you were, depending on how competent, get in the ring with him or other people. And that was your hour. I remember sort of looking at wearing those watches that used to read your calories back in the day, because as a trainer, everyone bought them. You'd burn at least 1,000 calories in that 1 hour.
That's a lot in an hour. Wow. And yeah, the warm up sounds like some people's workout.
I loved it. I loved it. The fitter you got, what I loved was, and you would know this, the fitter you got, like you knew you were fit. You weren't just fit, you were super fit. And at the time when it was about 30, I was not only ring fit, I was, you know, outside fit as well. So anaerobically. Like it
That's
was insane. It was tiring. I mean, when you first got into it, it was like, oh my God. But as you progressed, and that's what I suppose for me personally, I love that progression because he used to do the classes with you. So, when I first started, I'd hide behind the bags. And once that confidence grew, if you wanted to be pushed, you would sit right in front of him because if you don't perform, you'll know about it. And that's, for me, that's what I love the best.
so you challenge yourself by sitting right in front.
Absolutely, yeah. The
Amazing.
sparring, not so much fun because there was a lot of injuries through training that I received as well. Not through fighting the competitions, but more so through the training itself. But part
Wow.
and parcel. You want to get in the ring, that's what's going to happen.
True, true. And so you competed a lot then with was it more so boxing or everything?
More so, I started off because back in the 90s, kickboxing was a big thing. So I started with the kickboxing, and then I also competed in karate, the Ajakampo karate, but that was more forms and katas, which means the same thing, patterns. And you did competitions through there. And then, I don't know, there was something about the boxing. And if you look at the research, and this is what I push, especially with my business, it made, and why I built the business really. So when you box, it's very individual. There's you and an opponent, and it's very much this fight or flight. And you can't really run out the ring. Well, you can if you wanted to, but you're not going to do that. You're just going to stay in there regardless of what happens, right? And that's what it was, because it would bring emotions to the surface. And then it's either you take it on or you don't. And unfortunately for me, the negative really took over more than the positive. And when I first started, I think it was one of those unconscious reasons for getting into boxing, because I wanted to push myself and get through that mental health issues that I had. And when I first started, it wasn't fun, I'm not going to lie. I was teamed up, although on a positive, we did have Olympic trainers, so there was some special classes. And I know this like the back of my head, I will never forget. So he teamed me up with this other girl who was a little bit more experienced. She was the alpha male female of the gym. And man, did I get compounded. They were not fun sessions.
Wow.
And at that time it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Ran to my trainer, I was like, tears, whatever. And he was very hardcore, like I said. So you're gonna give up? And of course you're not. So he just kept going back, kept going back. But that mindset sort of changed, because then you could give a little bit more than get. And it wasn't as painful, but that all sort of, that progression. But it was something about the boxing. And I'm actually going to compete again at the end of this year after 11 years of not stepping in the ring. So watch this space, I guess, and see what happens.
That's exciting. Wow. I'm
It is.
definitely
It's
gonna
a
be
ripe age of 51, so we'll see what happens.
what you're gonna do. It's gonna come right back. You're gonna do great.
Oh yeah. Oh look, I have no doubt. That's what I've already started training now, getting in some runs, and in a couple of few months, do a lot more sparring, and yeah. So I know the process. That is definitely not lost on me. So yeah.
Good, good. Wow. The discipline to, push through with all of that. I've got to ask you, what is your why, your fundamental why that keeps pushing you to be so disciplined?
Well, like I said back then, I had a lot of, I still have a lot of mental health issues. They sort of came to the surface again since my father passed away last year, September, for different reasons. We won't go into those details because this is a lot about fitness, but related to mental health. And one of those reasons was I feel like I'm in a different headspace now. And I also, because my business, I work with kids on the spectrum, but not only on the spectrum, I want to teach them, about discipline and drive. And even though things can get tough, you can rise above that toughness. And that said, especially wanting to compete again, I want to show them, show myself as well, more so myself, prove it to myself, but also show these kids that A, it doesn't matter what age you are, B, whatever you're going through, you just got to push through it. I know it sounds easy, and let me tell you, it hasn't been an easy transition the last few weeks, months, but you just got to push through it one day at a time, 1 minute at a time. You just go like one round at a time, to quote, every single boxing movie there is out there. And it's just that, just going through the motions, I guess.
It's so symbolic of life, I feel like, with, working out, training, boxing. It's all so symbolic. You get out what you put in, and you can't
Absolutely.
skip steps. It's just fitness is so powerful. And I was gonna say, I love how you said that age is, it's just a number. Because I have been beaten by guys in their, mid 50s more than once, more than twice in obstacle course races. There were these two guys, I think they were like 55, 56, or like, maybe even late 50s. And they would always beat me. They'd always be like 100 meters ahead of me, and I could never catch them. And then in strongman competitions, like crazy how age is such a small thing, small
That's
factor.
exactly right. But I think it also depends on how much you want it. And I'm not saying you don't want it, but I think as we get sort of older, there's something that just, you know, you got to prove to yourself. And I think with the age thing, and I can only speak for myself, it is that proving that that number doesn't make a difference. I mean, I like to think, even though I haven't been as, you know, with my fitness, I maintain it, but it's not been my sole focus over the last few months. But I go for walks every morning, so I'm probably, you know, fitter than the average Joe.
Oh
But now,
yes,
obviously, I've got to step it up. And I think it's a personal thing. It's not so much an age thing. I think it's a personal thing. You can be, you know, I love following people that are even older than me that you know, doing hikes and marathons, and
it's
you
true.
know, it's in yourself how much you want it.
I agree. No, that's very true. If your journey, this is kind of a fun question, but if your journey, fitness journey, was turned into a movie, what would you say the title would be?
Well, it's potentially going to be turned into a movie, so it's not a, yeah. So I'll tell your viewers now. So we're working on a documentary, myself and a collaborator, and we are literally looking for funding. And the title of the movie will be the same title as my book and my T-shirt, which you'll see it back to front, which is The Boxer Within.
That's amazing. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Congratulations.
Thank you. So we're looking at getting a doco out at the moment. We'll hopefully get some funding for it, and then down the track, hopefully turning it into a movie, because it's an important topic. You know, Greek female growing up in the country. You know, this is not something that females did, especially Greek. You know, old school traditional. You get married, you procreate, and that's where pretty much it ends. There was no talking about careers. Even when I played soccer, you know, it was they hadn't even developed female soccer teams. You know, I was playing indoor, and then someone said, "Oh, we're going to do a outdoor team." I mean, it's big now. Yeah. So it's yeah, we want to tell the story from the perspective on how it also helped mental health. There's a lot of facets to it.
Well, yeah, but that's such a powerful story because there's literally no inspirational movies like that. And it touches on so many subjects, like you said.
Well, I haven't seen any because a lot of the, let's go with our culture, the Greek stuff is all about comedy, which is great, but you can only thrash that so much.
That's
You
true.
know, there's never been, I haven't really seen, apart from maybe a couple of movies that really haven't represented the serious side of our culture, and especially from a female perspective who gets into this sport, which is, you know, unknown for Greek females, and how she not only did it to sort of, yeah, it started off for a boy, but obviously it hasn't sort of continued for that reason, but to show other girls you can get into that, you know, European, younger girls, you know, whoever you are, and how it has helped with the mental health side of things. Because that was really one of those things that it has helped me with, which is why I do what I do, because I found the combination of, which is what Theloactive therapy is, combining the martial arts with the counselling as a combination or an alternative. You know,
Absolutely.
not everyone wants to sit across a therapist and talk about their feelings.
Abs-
I can get out more from putting gloves on someone than I can, you know, unless they do want to converse like that, because it's a lot more relaxed. There's no pressure. It's very low key. You're just having a chat.
That is powerful. And I've got so many questions about Theloactive, but I have to say, I respect that you just broke out of all the traditional and all the boxes and you just followed your heart because you're right. The old Greek mentality, they're so stubborn, they're so strict, and they typically, women were more, cleaning and raising the family, and they didn't get into combat sports. And so you just broke free, followed your heart, did your thing, and you excelled at such a high level. It is such an inspirational story.
Well, I can't take all the credit. I've got to say, I've got two older siblings, and especially my sister, who really got the brunt of the strictness. So when I sort of turned her of age, she took me out, you know, so I was exposed at a young age. So by that stage, as I got older, you know, you weren't going to tell me what to do, that, this and that. So then I moved out at 19, moved in with my brother. He wasn't, he was a bit semi-strict, but, you know, he was still going out as well. But look, even though that transition happened because of my sister, there was a lot of things that were really difficult because, you know, you've lived one certain way. I was a particular, you know, your personality or whatever. I'm very outspoken, and you'll get to see that as we are talking. And I say what I think, there is no filter, which can get you into trouble, which it has got me into trouble, and still now. But as you then I moved to the city, I felt like I needed to be a different way. And then when I used to
Um,
go back to the country and meet my friends there, it was like, oh, you're a bit different. So even though, yes, the move was great, moving to the city, couldn't wait, because I always believed I wasn't meant to be born in the country, there was still trying to find yourself, that identity.
I
I mean,
see.
I went from country town when shops closed at 1 o'clock to city of, oh my God, exposing to going out to different clubs and bars and, who am I? Who do I want to be?
Culture shock and new identity and opportunity.
Exactly right, because I was only 19, even how to pay rent. Even though I was living with my brothers, like, how does this work? How much do I have to pay? Like, it was this whole thing because you weren't exposed to that. Even though I was working in the country, my sister made me get a job, which was one of the best things to do. Earn your own money. There was still quite a culture shock going from country to city. Yeah, the exposure of the big lights and the whatever, but it was a whole new trying to find your own identity,
That
which caused mental health issues, which were from childhood, which is a whole different, I suppose, chapter there as well.
that makes sense. No, that's very interesting how the timing too, because you had to face the transition, the culture shock, and also another symbolic transition of adulthood and new identity. So it was almost like two transitions, two major transitions at the same time. So that sounds like a very challenging time for
It
sure.
was because I didn't have any friends in the city. I only had my cousin who was really popular with everyone. She was the person that I wanted to be when I was sort of growing up, because she had the friends. And so her friends became my friends. But again, because we were so different and I was trying to fit in, there was always this contrast of who do I want to be? How am I supposed to be? People telling you how you should be. Yeah, it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, and then also I feel like tell me if you agree, but in young adulthood, you're so much more focused on what other people think of you. Late teens, early 20s, like naturally people are the mindset is more, how do people perceive me? And then as you get older, it kind of shifts to not really caring as much, right?
That's absolutely true. I mean, in those sort of early years, there was that sort of, I don't give a, what people think of me, but of course, subconsciously you do, because which is why you're trying to find this identity, and that's why I work with the kids I work to, today, especially those on the spectrum who are being bullied and all sorts of things are happening for them. They've got to deal with their own stuff, plus going to school. So I want to embed in them that confidence, that high self-esteem before they get to, life and all those other struggles, because it just doesn't stop just because you're at school. You're going to encounter bullies and whatnot at work, which is, I don't know about you, but what I've done as well.
True. Yeah, it's not just, you're right, not just in the school, the classroom, but also the workplace and life in general. So what you're offering is very powerful. And what gave you the idea to start Theloactive? And then if you want to tell us about Theloactive and who you work with.
Sure. As I mentioned before, Theloactive, well, the name, you should know what it is, but if you don't, it's a Greek word for I want, I need. Thelo is what do you want, what do you need? So as a personal trainer, and you definitely will know this, or as a therapist, when a client comes in, the first question you're generally asking is, why are you coming to see me? What do you want out of these sessions? But because I work with kids, it's a little bit different because obviously I'm getting that from the parent. And again, the reason why I started working with the kids, neurodivergent was a bit of a default because I started seeing one young client and he was neurodivergent on the spectrum. And then it was a bit of a struggle, but then I got to understand them. And I really believe we all have something in us. We're all a little bit autistic, which isn't, it's great, fantastic. That's what makes us unique and different. We've all got something. So from there, it started building from there. Not to say that I won't help any young person or even adult, but I felt like these guys were the ones that struggled a lot. And I can sort of think back in my childhood and, growing up as from migrant parents, they weren't going to understand the mental health and emotional well-being. For them, it was all survival. And being the youngest of three, even though if you ask my siblings, it was a lot easier. To some degree, yes, but with the mental health side of things, no,
Oh, yes.
which is why, because, like a lot of other kids have struggled with the bullying, my own mental health issues, which we can sort of discuss, they didn't sort of show up until the ripe age of 21. But that's why I wanted to work with these young kids
I
because I wanted to have something in them. I teach kids to fight so they don't have to. It's about using your body, your voice. That said, if someone puts hands on, you put hands on as self-defense. right?
Yes.
I don't want my kids to be pushed around and whatever, thrown to the ground, and you're just going to take it. No. But of course, first port of call, let me reiterate, fighting so they don't fight, using their voice, using their bodies. And,
Absolutely.
walking like a boss is what I sort of call it. Chest out, stand up,
Giving them
and
the confidence.
absolutely confidence, self-esteem to enter the world. And, while I train them, some of them a bit hard in heat, whatever, it's not going to be as hard as what's out there.
I like that. And honestly, I feel like every child should learn, general mixed martial arts and also the mindset and everything that you're teaching because it gives them the confidence, it gives them the body awareness, it gives them the self-defense side. So what you're offering really should be a worldwide brand.
Well,
And I
that's
love
the
the name.
plan. That's the plan. But unfortunately, having tried to get into schools, which I am in a couple of schools and have done some sort of workshops, the problem there is they claim they encourages violence, which it obviously
Uh,
doesn't, depending on how. And look, it's not the teacher's fault or the school fault. It's obviously, comes from the top. But if you teach it in a way where it's not about the actual fighting per se, because it's not. Like, for example, I'm working with a school now where we look at each week, it's a different topic. Yeah, and it's teaching girls. Not to say that I won't teach anyway, but in this scenario, it's about teaching girls. And it's a select bunch of girls who, whether it's self esteem, self confidence, whatever. But each week, each topic relates to life, be it resilience, be it leadership, be it working with, other people. And that's how we sort of promote it to the school. So even though they wear gloves, I sit there and, in the beginning, today's session is going to be this. And at the end, I'll sort of say to them, so what did you learn from today's session? So there's always a learning.
it's amazing to break it up like that, and you made it even more holistic because it is holistic.
Yeah,
And I love that. And it's interesting because that they say that it's too violent because the people that learn, like, boxing, mixed martial arts, are always so peaceful. They're not the
exactly
ones.
right. Exactly right. But again, like I said, that, you can't really blame the schools. If you're looking at it from a non martial arts experience perspective,
True.
they see the fighting has increased, the bullying has increased. When I was going to school, there was maybe one fight if you're lucky. Whereas now it's increased, and whether that's come from, these gaming or social media, I don't know, and I'm not going to sort of blame those. Otherwise, sitting back, and teachers haven't got the power like they used to when I was going to school.
That's
So if
true.
you're going to see a fight, you can't really jump in and break it up because then, kid could go home and go, oh, this person hurt me. There's a whole thing. So I get it from their perspective. So it really does need to be controlled, but I think we just need the opportunity to showcase, which is what's great about this particular school, to showcase that, hey, this is what I'm delivering. And, to match the curriculum, which is what we've sort of done as well, regardless of what art it is. And really, the research does show boxing, through any other martial arts. I mean, they all help, but boxing is one of those ones that really can make a difference, where it shows that it's not about the fighting. That's literally the last thing it is, but it's more about what you get out of it and how it helps this. And if you want to go scientifically, it creates new neural pathways, which is, turning a positive into a negative, which is better known as neuroplasticity.
Definitely. So you have your students, you have the curriculum, and then the training to back that up, and it's paired where they not only get the self-discovery, but they also get to almost like a therapy session in a sense where they get to, share things that they might not have an opportunity to share elsewhere. That's
Exactly right, and that's already happening. I've had a couple of the students come up and go, "Oh, do you know?" Or mind you, in the group setting, but it's like, no, don't come and talk to me separately. Where they have opened up, and that's happened over a period of 4 sessions.
powerful stuff. It really is. That have you ever thought about doing like an online course?
I
Because
have. I'm in the process. We're about to deliver possibly in the next few weeks. My designer is doing the last bits of it. So good thinking. Yep. I mean, look, it's more focused on the boxing, but there is going to be like a face group as well, group setting. And if they want to speak to me one on one, and like, it's designed as I'll expose it now. Why not? It's designed as a 15, 30, 45, 60-minute workouts. So if you're, poor for time, then you can do the smaller one. But if you want to do the bigger ones, and in amongst that, There's obviously the physical aspect, because like I said, some people are time poor, but then there is that if you want to have a chat and we talk further about whatever's going on with you, then we organise a session as well. So that's sort of hopefully coming out in the next maybe couple of weeks.
I love that. And just to, we can always talk more after, but my fitness brand that I'm working on putting together, it's basically a platform for courses and experiences. So once I get it going, I'd love to offer your course to promote
Sure,
your course.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. The goal is to have different, unique courses that are holistic.
I'm sure, you know what, Jonathan, I reckon we could do something together. You know,
True.
whether you come here, whether I go there, you know, tax deductions right there. But you know, combine. Why not? You know, your
Sure.
experience, because mine is martial arts, and I know about strength training and all that stuff. I probably don't know as much as what you do, and sort of vice versa. I know you've tried boxing, but you know, I'm sure there's something we can sort of do together.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't have actually much experience with boxing. I only did a little bit of MMA stuff when I was in Miami for like
Yeah,
a few months. But I love boxing, and I mean, I'd love to get into more of it. But yeah, one day we definitely have to put together a course or something for sure.
for sure.
I like that. I'm excited about what you put together. I was gonna ask you if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, maybe like let's say 10 or 15 years ago. What would you tell yourself?
I wasn't so young back then. 10, 15 years ago. No, I'm kidding. 10, 15 years ago. You know what? I'll tell you something. I should have pushed to get to see a therapist back then. So, just to give you some context, I realized at a younger age, like late teens, adult or 21, I noticed that there was something not right. So, I went to see a doctor, and unfortunately, that doctor gave me really bad advice. You know, there's nothing wrong with you, don't be silly. And I'm glad a lot of the doctors aren't like that now. So, of course, you internalize it and sort of say, oh, maybe there isn't nothing wrong with me. Maybe I'm having a bad day. And it took 21, 34. So 13 years later, and I really believe it's possibly the universe that brought these people to me, because I started working at a gym, one of the more prominent ones, more of a leisure centre, but one of the sort of bigger ones in Adelaide at the time. And one of my clients was a therapist. She was a psychologist. And through just universe, I guess, whatever you want to call it, I then met up with a couple of psychologists. They wanted the fitness training, so I offered the training. And in my head, I'm like, you know, I really should ask them. And they knew, like, you know, these guys are experts. They can pick it a mile away. And then sort of we turned the tables, and I then became his client, because I figured if I'm going to like be a therapist myself, I don't want to be a hypocrite, you know, help everyone else and not help myself.
Bro.
And then, yeah, so started seeing him, and I still do. Like, we do regular sessions now. And it was one of the best things I could have done. And if I could go back, that would be, should have pushed for that a lot more. But I guess, you know, still sort of trying to find myself and all that identity and whatnot. You don't want to, and in our culture, and for a lot of cultures, you know, it's taboo.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nothing. We don't talk about our emotions to other people. You know, you talk about it, you know, with people that you trust and in families, and yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say with like Greek culture, isn't it very as loving and open as it is, it's also very tough and like, like they don't talk about stuff like that.
No, and you know, look, they didn't grow up with that, and I've got to say, eventually down the track, my parents did get it, so you know, it sort of did improve. But again, what I mentioned earlier, their main focus was survival. That's what they grew up with. It
That
wasn't,
is
let's talk about our feelings. So, you know, you can't really blame them for that. But, yeah, you know, down the track, I mean, it's still very taboo for a lot of people out there, not just cultures, a mixture of cultures, where we don't discuss that because what will people say and what will people think? I mean, I could care less now. I'll tell anyone that wants to listen.
it's true though. It's very interesting how the cultural influence of growing up, it made you not want to talk to anyone. And then over time, you went your own path. And then ultimately, it turned into your business
That's
and
exactly right,
helping
because
others.
I was carrying a lot of anger, and it wasn't until when I don't know how many years into the martial arts, probably, I don't even want to say, when I was still training with that trainer for 11 years, where I went to him, you know what? I'm sick of being angry. I'm sick of being this way. I surrender. Let's just do what I need to do. And that's probably around the same time when the stars were aligned and I seek therapy. I mean, that was still hard too, because there was lots to go through, and there's always sort of something that happens that, you think you're past something and then something happens and it creates something else or it takes you back to. So it's an ongoing thing, work in progress. But you know what? That's exactly what you said. It gave me the design of, building this business. And like I said, it's not just for kids. I see adults as well, but that's sort of where it started because I didn't want them to experience the same sort of thing I did as a kid. It was hard. It was really hard.
I can imagine you must have felt alone and not known who to turn to. And I can imagine that's very challenging, feeling like you're almost like the black sheep or like the family kind of
Well, I
like.
really think so. Until this day, perhaps the same thing. But saying that, I had a really good teacher, which I'm still friends with till this day. She was my grade five primary school teacher. So, I was 10 years old at the time. And she was one of those people that made life fun, especially our classroom experiences. And yeah, we sort of lost a little bit of contact, but we did reconnect, or at least a decade, even more so now. And yeah, we're still good friends.
Good.
So she basically, I don't want to say saved my life. I really think martial arts did, but she was one of those people that made it a little bit easier.
That's amazing to have friendships like that for sure. And what you're doing is so powerful because I'm sure there's so many children and adults that, feel the same way and look forward to those sessions. So that's very influential, really.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. If you had to explain your mindset in 3 words, what would you say? Because I know you're very disciplined and relentless. I'm curious
There
to
you go.
know.
You've probably given them two already. Yeah, look, driven, disciplined, and relentless. Yeah, like a dog with a bone, basically. I've been called that on numerous occasions. Even
That's
in my work, like, I've worked your normal jobs, 9 to 5s, and, have moved up from, starting from the bottom to the top. And in all those experiences, it really has been, dog without a bone, dog with a bone. And that's, what I encourage these young kids to learn and adults. We all have different experiences and we all learn different. And I don't get it right every single time, but I try.
that's good. It sounds like you have a mentality where you just don't acknowledge giving up as an option.
Well, look, yes, but in the last sort of few months, I've got to say that was turned on its head a little bit. As I said to my friend, the axes of the world had sort of flipped on its head, and it was only really a couple of weeks ago, 2, 3 weeks ago, where I was probably at my lowest point where I went, come on, Vicky, And I happened to catch, love watching Cobra Kai. I'm sure you would have heard of Cobra Kai,
Oh, yes,
the
definitely.
show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, watching that, I thought, come on, you've been beaten up how many times in training? You've had broken nose, cracked rib, you've had injuries, and you withstood that. So you can withstand this. And slowly that sort of lifted me a little. And then I seek therapy on the Friday of that same week. And we had a conversation. Something had to give. I won't go into the detail. I'll tell you personally, that's fine. But I had to do something pretty dramatic to change the way my thinking was. And then, yeah, through that, I found my way back to where I originally was. I mean, look, it's always going to be a work in progress. Things come up. But it was a really scary place to be because that wasn't me. And when you're watching, you feel all these feelings and knowing that you're not yourself, but you just can't seem to get out of it. It takes, and I'm not saying that this out of ego, it takes some supersonic strength to go, come on, what are you doing? Get out of this. Because you know yourself how you are. And then when you're not there, it's like something's got to give. This is exhausting because it's exhausting.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I know what you mean for sure. And you definitely have an inspirational story for sure with the different chapters. So
Oh, yeah. Which is why I wrote a book as well.
I remember, yeah, I have your book somewhere.
I'm sure you do, but I have a copy to show your audiences right here.
Yes. No, I loved it. I loved it. I have it not in this room, but somewhere in the our
That's
living.
right. That's right. That's right. But my point is, as you just said, lots of stories to tell. I mean, it's very compact, but yeah, I'm sure I have more stories to tell, and I'm sure you do too in your journey of entrepreneurship. So, we've all got a story.
That's true. No, absolutely. I was gonna ask, with everything you shared, what would you share with those for those who are struggling with self-doubt or lack of motivation? What would you want to share with them?
Well, I can only share from sort of my experiences. Talk to someone. I know sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want people to know my business. And I can sort of say when I'm in a downward, I don't like doing that too, because I'm always the person with certain people that I'm the one that shows up. I'm the one that wants to help.
Yes.
But in the reverse, that said, speak to people you trust, and seek therapy. I know it sounds cliche and they don't know me, but you know what? Sometimes it's better to talk to someone that doesn't know you. Do your research. And at the end of the day, if that therapist doesn't work for you, but on that side of things, you also have to be ready. But don't keep it inside. You know, just do whatever you need to do. And if you don't want to talk to anyone, do some exercise. I know that is the hardest thing to do, especially to get that mindset of even to get out of bed, but even go for a walk, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It sounds really cliche and easy, but I know from personal experience it definitely is not. But, they would be sort of my tips. I'm probably biased from a therapeutic point of view, but it was one of the best things that I did.
No, that's great advice because a lot of people might not feel comfortable or they might have these, ideas like it's something to be embarrassed about or like some kind of, idea that they shouldn't be doing it, but uh they should. They absolutely should.
Absolutely, and I don't think we emphasize that enough. I don't know about your country, but here with us, if they could advertise that and promote it as much as they did COVID, I think possibly people wouldn't be as afraid to go and ask for help as, possibly some are now. But we
Oh yeah,
don't emphasize it enough to even try and find out where to get help. You actually have to do research. We shouldn't have to do research.
that's a good point. It should be just a jet like what's taught in schools, what's what we teach our kids.
Absolutely, there should be that in the curriculum. I would, it's so great that they teach psychology in schools now. I wish they had had that when I was going to school. Who knows? I might have not been interested as a high schooler, or maybe I would have, but they just don't emphasise it enough. That is one thing that should be in that school curriculum, which I'm glad it is now. But even in any sort of, be it workplaces, and I know they talk about it, but they need to make it bigger. They need to make it so people aren't afraid to go, oh, I'm too scared to talk to someone. Or what are they going to think?
I agree. I agree. Here in America, I think they're better than a lot of other countries.
Well, yeah, that's good. I love that because we watch a lot of shows here, and I'm sure it's true where you hear, I see a therapist, and I reckon by the shows, and I'm not like, and you
Yeah.
can correct me if I'm wrong, it's literally every second person. But you know what? Great. It's
Yes,
great. It should be that.
I agree. No, definitely. It is pretty common here, but it wasn't 10 years ago though. So it's definitely getting
Yeah.
more accepted.
But I guess the down, and I love the States, don't get me wrong, is your health system is probably not as great as ours in terms of even if you're not working, we still have Medicare and that sort of thing. But I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to be working a full-time position or something to get the medical benefits. Would that be correct to some degree?
It's yes, that the healthcare system here is a mess. I mean, so
Yeah.
many things are like corrupt and don't make sense, and
Yeah.
it's so many things are a mess here,
It's
unfortunately.
sad because that should be like mental health or any health really should be a top priority.
Oh yeah, and healthcare should be affordable, and housing should be affordable.
Absolutely. And I think, that's where I suppose, is probably one of the best countries. I mean, look, I can't speak about other countries, but like I said, I've heard of the States. I know Greece isn't great with that sort of thing either, because we obviously speak to some of our Greek relatives. But, we get so many supports. I mean, even my mum now, she gets some great supports because of her age and whatnot through our health system. Yeah,
Wow, so Australia really takes care of its citizens.
absolutely, it does.
Wow, so you get affordable, like your cost of living isn't too crazy, and you get like good health.
Well, look, it is depending on where you live and what you spend. Housing is expensive. Interest rates have obviously gone up. But in terms of health, I mean, I think we are pretty good compared to a lot of other countries out there, because you got your private health, and you can get your private health regardless of whether you're working or not. Medicare, they're not going to leave you just because you don't have private insurance, or that's not their first question. It's to help you, and then we go, from there. I mean, I've always had private insurance as soon as I moved to the city. Medicare is a government sort of funded thing, so you get that as soon as you turn of adult age, which I know a lot of sort of the countries unfortunately don't have.
Definitely. And I've got a crazy story for you actually.
Go.
So I got I got my appendix taken out a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
I didn't have health insurance because the I hadn't been to a doctor in 5 6 years. So why would I have health insurance? Was so expensive. It was
Yeah, I can imagine.
it didn't make sense. So I didn't have health insurance. I went to the hospital and I was there for maybe 10 hours. So I got my appendix taken out. The next day, the next morning I left. Late morning I left. And I got a bill from the hospital for, I almost want to have you guess how much. $60,000.
I'm sorry, how much?
$60,000.
So 6000.
Yeah, 60,000.
60,000. I just wanted to be clear, which is why I said each number.
Yeah.
What? What?
Which is crazy because if you broke down the cost, that's as if I stayed at, the Ritz-Carlton for 6 months straight. And I was there
My God.
and then I got billed separately for the anesthesiologist and separately by the surgeon, another 2,000, another 2,000. And so I asked the hospital, I was like, why is it so much? And they gave me a breakdown, which did not make any sense. All I had was chicken soup and I stayed in a little bed.
That's insane.
So of
Even
course,
our health, even to join our health insurance company, like we've got obviously several here, it wouldn't even cost you remotely that.
crazy.
Like do I pay monthly, fortnightly? I think fortnightly, like $150 a fortnight for my
Wow.
insurance. So, and I've got sort of the top premium. I mean, to us, it's possibly expensive, but now that you've just given me that example, not at all.
It's
But,
crazy. I didn't
even when I had my nose done, right, I only really paid for the anesthesiologist. Yeah, we pay a lot of insurance, but if you need to go and get something done, well, you're only paying literally bare minimum because you're already paying it with your insurance.
that's
Wow.
that's the way it should be.
Is there no way? So, unless you're working, you can't get the insurance? Is that right? Funding?
Well, I could have had health insurance, but it was so expensive. It was just not
How
worth it.
much do you pay for health insurance there, boy?
But years ago, this was maybe like 7 years ago, I was quoted at about 300 something a month, which I was so healthy, it didn't make sense to me since I never went.
Yeah, well,
But now
you
that
know
was,
what? I probably would go and get that 300 a month. I know it is expensive, but it's better than paying, well, unfortunately, 60 G's.
no, I know. But then on top of that, it was such a bad plan where I had a high deductible. So I still have to
Okay.
pay a deductible on top of that. So it doesn't.
Why do they do that there? For a country that is so advanced in a lot of things, they seem, I mean, I don't understand. And again, to emphasize to your viewers and audiences, love the States. I've been to the States a few times, but yeah, the system, I just don't understand.
No, I love it too, but there's so many systems that don't make sense. And
Yeah.
of course, I didn't pay it, and one day I'll figure that out. But it's crazy. It's crazy. It's
So
interesting.
do you now have to pay, like you got this bill? Do they give you a certain amount of time that you have to pay it, or because
So with hospital bills, I think they know how outrageous they are. So you don't have to pay. They just call you, and it
okay,
affects your credit. So you should over time, but I can get on a
yeah,
payment plan and pay
yeah,
some monthly, but
yeah,
I'll take care of that down the road.
fair enough. When your business like takes
That's
off to the stratosphere, then you can, yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Sounds good plan. Sounds like a good plan.
Thank you. That's crazy though. It's interesting how every country is so different.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Getting into the fitness section, I wanted to ask you, how has fitness shaped other areas of your life beyond just physical? And I know you've touched on this a lot, and I know you have a lot to say about it. So I know if you said mentally, but what would you say?
Absolutely, the same thing. Mindset, I suppose, in other parts of your life, like work. I don't know if it was the already embedded in me. I guess it was. I'm a big believer in it's in you, whereas others possibly would disagree. So I'm not sure if it was the fitness that, you know, motivated that or the vice versa, but it's helped me in especially my work life. Business is a bit harder because you've really got to just keep going and keep going and keep going. Whereas if you're working for someone else, basically, you have your role, you do what you do. I mean, and I'm always, if I'm going to do something, I'm 0 to 100, not just mediocre. So I suppose from that perspective, it helped me in all my other, work, whether it was because I've had a lot of jobs in my time, a lot of careers.
I see. So it just translates directly, the discipline, the focus, the
Absolutely, because you want to get the job done. And with your 9 to 5s, let's just call it that, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. Whereas in business, there is no beginning, middle, and end. You've just got to, when you're running a business. So you still, I think it's even more so necessarily in that, which is good. And I guess that's what I sort of lost a little bit in the last sort of few months, but sort of got it back again. But yeah, I mean, it helps you, or it has helped me in a lot of aspects of my life,
yeah,
especially work.
definitely. And and I know it's your career, it's your business now, which is amazing how you've integrated it to help others. So, for sure. Have you ever had an embarrassing gym moment? Kind of a fun question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I'm just trying to think.
Nothing that comes to mind?
No, well, the only sort of thing, which isn't really a gym moment, but I sort of cracked the shits. Can I say that on your podcast? I've said it now. So we were training, and my other friend probably says it better. And it was like, I don't know whether we're doing stick fighting. We're preparing for a fight. I'm sure we were. Because we used to train outside and can imagine cars driving past and thinking, what are these people doing? But something happened in the session, and like a little kid took her ball and bat and sort of left. So I'm like, mask off, because you're dressed literally like a gladiator. Mask off, threw my stick, walked off. I don't know what it was, but it was, yeah, I mean, if I can think of something funnier, but I don't know, just I got annoyed at something and that was it. I'm not playing anymore. That's it. I'm going. So yeah, basically took my helmet off, slammed it on the ground, took my stick and just walked off.
Well, that works. When you said you said crack the sheet earlier, is that what you said?
I crack the shits. It's a term that we use where you get angry and you just walk off. It's an Aussie saying.
I see. I was trying to figure out what that meant.
So shits, you know what shits is? Crack the shits basically means I got
Oh,
angry.
crack the
Crack the
shits.
shits. Yeah. There you go. I'm educating you in Australian slang, Jonathan.
Yes, that's cool. Crack the shits. That's funny.
And you say it so well. That's great. Good on you.
That is funny. What we're getting towards the end. What is the where is that? I was gonna ask you. Oh yeah, coolest gym you've ever been to? Because I know you've traveled a lot.
Oh, look, I've got to say, hands down, House of Champions. The one
How's
in
the
Van Nuys. Yeah, that was something special. So that's so they run the karate. It's the same. So as I said earlier, my original martial arts instructor and this instructor at Van Nuys at the House of Champions. Sifu Mark, his name is, that's the title. They combined it, they came together and designed this Ajakampo karate, so their names are actually in it. But he trains a lot of celebrities as well. And I got to train with him when I went on my own. I did a bit of a travel and train sort of holiday, I guess you could call it. So I started obviously, went Sydney because we got had a sister gym there as well, where they train basically the same thing. And then I went to New Zealand, I think on the way back, but then I ended up, going to the States as well and training. That's in LA, as you know, Van Nuys. But it was, pretty something special because back then when I traveled, I don't remember the year exactly, they had just, MMA was sort of coming in.
I
And
see.
so he started doing sessions there. So I got to do sort of an MMA session there, got to meet him, hang out with them. Amazing gym. Like if I went back again, I'd definitely go train there again.
House of Champions in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, Van Nuys is the suburb, I guess you call them, the area. Yeah. Have you ever heard of it? Have you been?
No, I wish I knew about that years ago when I was in Los Angeles for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool. Definitely want to check that out though.
Oh, look, I didn't know about it either before I sort of went there. It was only through obviously my training and experiences that we had heard about. And so I thought, yeah, definitely got to go there and train. I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
trained at a couple of other gyms. I've trained at a, when you say normal gym, and I taught a class there because one of my friends was a cyclist at one of the gyms there, and they were living in Long Island. Is that the correct?
The New York City area.
Yeah, New York City area. So I did some training there as well.
That's where Gaida
They,
is. Oh, sorry to interrupt. I was gonna say that's where Gaida and Ted and they're all in Long Island.
yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't, again, when I went there, I didn't know they even existed myself until I went to Greece in 2016 again. But then I trained at a, yeah, I trained a karate class for another friend of mine. So we're all, so in these circles, as big as they are, everyone sort of kind of knows each other if you are sort of traveling and training and competing, because you're training and competing internationally, especially through the martial arts circle. So it was great, great experience because I got to meet and train. But yeah, going back to my sort of gym of all gyms would have to be the House of Champions.
That's so cool. I'm definitely gonna keep that in mind for
Go
whenever I'm
for it.
visiting the West Coast. Oh yeah. If funny question. So you've been in gym settings, fitness industry for a long time. What's your biggest pet peeve? Like gym pet peeve?
Let me tell you my pet peeve, Jonathan. So, in one of the gyms where I was supervising or managing, I can't remember, I was supervising personal trainers. So, you have these roles, whatever. And I'm watching, there's a couple of pet peeves. Can I give you two or do you just want one?
Yeah, you can give me two, three for sure.
I'll give you two. So, I'm watching this guy hold pads and
Oh
he's
no.
holding them out like that. Like I nearly died. So I didn't say anything. And, where are these people hitting, across? Anyway, so I waited till he finished the session. I would never embarrass my trainers, whatever, at the time. So I'm like, can I have a chat? I'm like, mate, pads here. You're pushing against. It doesn't matter. They're just hitting. Yes, it does matter. If you're going to be teaching boxing, you got to do it properly. They could miss and you could bleed, you know. And if you're going to teach someone to punch, don't teach them to punch like that. It's not an exercise class, and even with
Yes.
those, frustrates me. Out in front, and if you want lessons, happily teach you, but that sort of thing.
To get them all the way out, all the way out
My
here.
lord, yeah. From a boxing background, and you're watching that, it's like you've got to be joking. Although I've got a funny story for you. Can I throw in a funny story?
Yeah, of course.
So at the time, my big manager, he wanted some boxing lessons because it was an opportunity for him to connect with his son. And he was very hardcore. He didn't like, when I say hardcore, I think he had this issue with females. I don't know. But he still wanted to train with me. Anyway, we were sparring. And I said to him, if you keep hitting hard and you hit me, I will hit back, right? I'm not going to be no one's boxing bag. Anyway, so we're sparring, whatever, and he hits me. So bang, hit back. And of course, I had to go, oh, I'm so sorry. But I'm thinking, no way, mate. Like, if you're going to do that, and I pre warned him, and everyone's like, oh, I would have paid money to see that. But it's like,
That's funny. Yeah. You even warned
my
him too.
God. Sorry?
You even warned him too.
Oh, avoid to different gyms where, I mean, that's even happened here. It's like, don't hit hard because if you miss, my response, not because I want to, it's just this automatic response. But just going back to the other pet peeve. So one of my trainers, this will drive you nuts probably. So I'm watching him train his client. Well, he's supposed to be. Client's over there doing their thing, and he's sitting there like this in the mirror.
Kidding me. No.
No way. And I saw that and I went,
No. He's not even looking at his client.
and I said to him, if I ever see that again, you're basically done. Yep. It was more, these guys, because the gym I was working at the time was a leisure centre. It wasn't just a gym. We had swimming pools. We had the whole thing. Membership was quite expensive.
Oh yeah.
Sessions, well, I can't even remember what they were back then, but still, $80, $100. You are not getting paid, even though they were getting a percentage of it, or we're getting a percentage of it, you are not paid to sit there, you know.
Yeah, it's common sense not to be staring in the mirror.
Oh, you'd be surprised. No, no, no. There's a lot of non-common sense in those places. But anyway, yes. So there's my pet peeves.
That's funny. Wow. No, those are good ones. I like those for sure. Mine, I can't stand when someone loads a machine up and then just walks away. Like once they finish using a machine, if they don't unrack the machine, it drives me
Or
crazy.
come on, it's got to be the other good one is when they load up and then they bang it, like to show how strong they are. Like, mate, where's the control in whatever you're doing?
With no
You
range
know,
of motion.
even lap pull downs, they load it up and it's like half a lap pull down and then bang. And it's like, do you know you're actually not working anything?
There's a lot of memes on social media of different clips.
One of my favorite ones, actually, and I forgot about this one. So I used to work at the gym before I got promoted. You do like a Friday night shift. So these guys would come dressed up to go out, but just come in to work their biceps.
You're kidding me? No way. So
I would not kid about that.
they would come just to get that pump before they.
Yep, yep, 100%. Yep. I
That's
used to think, why are you coming? I couldn't work out why are you only working one muscle group, which obviously I can now. But it wasn't even that. It was like they dress up to go out, but just to get that bulk.
that's hilarious. They'd come get a little quick bicep pump to fill
That's
up the
it,
shirt.
because got to show you how big you are.
That's funny. Wow. That's hilarious. The last section I was gonna ask you, I got a little lost. Oh yes. So what does excel beyond boundaries mean to you? Because I know you technically do it with your mentality, with your life, with your business. So I'm curious to hear
Isn't
your
that the
insight.
name of your business? Excel Boundaries. Thank
Yes,
you. That's the point.
the podcast is Excel
Yes, that's right.
boundaries.
Because I'm thinking, is this a test I know about your business, or is that?
No, I mean like in like what it means to you. Like what
Yeah,
is selling
I
beyond
know.
boundaries mean to you?
I think it's for me personally, it's how far can you basically take yourself? Because I think we limit ourselves. And I was talking to someone about that yesterday. I was reading something about that. I can't remember. But I think we underestimate how far we can go. And, I can use that as my own example. When I first started stick fighting, I went to America. It wasn't a very good headspace. We competed. I competed once. I lost. That was it. Waste of money, waste of trip. Then when I came back, I went, all right, if we're going to do this, we got to do it properly, right? So this was when we were competing for world titles. So I trained my ass off, basically. I had, especially in stick fighting, right? So this was stick fighting competition. So I'd spent whatever I'd spent and literally fought for, a few minutes. So when I came back to Australia, I said to my trainer, I've got to do this. I want to do this properly. I was training, in competition, you could train to 12 hours to 15 hours a week, if not more. I had cuts, whatever, but I just kept going, kept going. And he said to me, I think you could possibly win a gold or a silver. Ended
That's
up with a couple of silvers and a bronze. But like, it's amazing because that sport is really fast, a minute rounds, right? And you're wearing 4 kilos of armor. So you can imagine. So you look like a gladiator. I mean, I've got no footage to show you, but you can certainly Google and find something. But you're literally wearing a helmet, elbow pads, gloves, and you're working, holding sticks and you're competing against someone else. So the minute rounds. Oh, it was great. One of my favorites as well. But my point is, it was like, I went from fighting, losing this one fight to, training, and then him telling me, you're in it for a good chance of a gold or a silver, and then getting to that. And it's like those sort of 11 years, I've got to be honest, really exceeded all my expectations. Like, you just don't know until, but you got to put in the work. Don't forget there were tears. And it's very true when they say blood, sweat, and tears and
yeah.
injuries. There was lots, but you just keep going and going and going. But then with all of that, there's someone sort of watching because I remember another girl where I didn't compete. My sort of competing was a little bit over there. And she's like, I don't know how you do this. And it's like, you just do. So I think we underestimate, and you, I'm sure, can attest to this, underestimate what we think we can do with what we actually can do.
Oh, yes, everyone has, self-imposed limitations, and they don't like to try to go beyond that. I completely agree, for sure. That's an
And that's
amazing.
not just in fitness, that's just in everything. And I'm certainly guilty of certain aspects of that. And that comes down obviously to your mental health. Because if you're low confidence, low self-esteem, you're just trying to get over one little hill, let alone what you really can.
That's so true. I completely agree with that. It's interesting to see when people break through and realize they're more capable than they think that they are, and how excited people get, and I love
Well, it
it.
was exactly that. I mean, even in my, I'll share a very quick story. When I first competed in boxing, I had to lose some super weight. Like, as you know, there's weight categories, and I took my time in doing it. And then obviously it was an emergency because you had to drop it. Uh, so the night before that, the night before, so they weighed in the same time as you competing, and the fight was on a night. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I had to drop. So what he did, which I didn't know at the time, he had increased the scales to make sure you're under that weight. These are the sorts of things he used to do, right?
I see.
So on my first fight, I was well and truly under, but I didn't know that until then, after the fight.
He bumped it up a couple
Right? So he's like, I don't care what you have to do, rah, rah. Anyway, that morning, we drank a little vodka. We went for a run around the block wearing the armor that I would not recommend this. This is all very supervised, you know. But these are some of the unorthodox stuff we did. Run around the block wearing the armor, which was a couple of Ks, I think, was it? Anyway, lost 3 kilos in 1 hour. Yep. But my point is about, exceeding all expectations. I'd fought the next day, night, realised that I was well and truly, I think I was fighting under 60, which I'm not doing this time. I 58. So I dropped to 58 kilo, which is exactly what we needed. I think even less. Because at the time I'd forgotten, bikini, whatever, but I weighed in jeans and whatever, and I'm looking at these scales going, how did that happen? And then, of
of.
course, he's smiling at me going, oh, well, yeah, okay, great. Meanwhile, you've killed me practically mentally. But my
Yeah,
point is, got in the ring, didn't win, but the fact that I did that, that's huge. And you have people coming up to you because, back in the day it was, and it is still a lot now, more of a male orientated sport than a female. But you had people coming up to you, you didn't even know, good on you, that was good, good, whatever. But you just felt like, man, if I can do that, I can do anything, you
yeah.
know, because it's a very big difference with you training versus someone actually, wanting to hit you and hurt you.
Oh, for sure, I can
And
imagine.
I was pretty thin. I had hardly eaten anything those last few days. So I'm really surprised I didn't actually get knocked out, but didn't, thankfully. But, fought, lost, unfortunately, but it was a first fight. Didn't know what to expect. But yeah, came out at the other side and going, if I can do that,
Oh
you
yeah, no,
can.
that's impressive. I mean, you felt okay though, performance-wise, because you lost so much water weight, you still felt okay?
Well, it wasn't performance wise. What let me down and what I discovered, like I mentioned earlier, is this. It was like, what will people say? I had the skill. The skill was there. But it was more so, what will people say? What if I lose? And by that stage, you've already lost before you enter the ring.
That's true. That's
You know
true.
what I mean?
Mindset.
And I guess that's why I want to give it another crack this year because it's a different mindset. And, let's see what we can do.
I like that. I love that. I can't wait. Keep me posted on that for sure.
Certainly will. Yeah, it won't be till later in the year. I'm thinking October, November. There's a couple that I want to sort of enter. So yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted.
Nice. I want
I'm
to
thinking of
watch.
probably doing a little journal thing, as progress. So then, other people can see, my kids can see that,
Yeah,
hey, just because, she walks the talk, not just stand there and,
for
bark
sure. For sure.
instruction.
Yeah, you should document it for
Well,
sure.
that's what I want to do. I want to document it exactly for that reason. So, no other people who think they can't do something to do it, but also mainly for my kids and any other sort of, clients that I get to say, hey, she's this age and she hasn't competed for this long and she's going to give it a crack, win or lose, and see what happens.
That's amazing. Seriously. I'm excited for you. And you must have known what I was going to ask you next because I was going to ask you next what was next. So good
Well,
time.
that is next. Look, there's a lot of things that are coming next, I guess you could say. And I've already mentioned like the program, the doco, and obviously now the fights. There's, other things, but I do want to, and people probably, I don't care what people think, to be honest. I want to take it globally because there's a lot of kids out there that need it. And the way I teach it is very unique to other places that might call it martial arts therapy, but my way is very different. And before I even started this business, I did a lot of research to see what was out there.
Yeah.
And there is, in terms of the way I teach it, because it really did work for me, combining the two, even though I sort of did it separately because as an adult, you can differentiate training. Even though, but again, I used to speak to my trainer a lot about stuff, but, the training and then come the therapy, because especially with boxing, it brings emotions to the surface. And the hardest thing to work out is what do I do with these things? I'm angry, so why am I so angry? Well, we work that out, sort of thing. Because you don't love yourself, you don't even like yourself, love yourself, the anxiety, it's a whole myriad of things.
You start digging deeper
So
and deeper.
yeah, absolutely. And that's obviously what I do. And I want to take it globally, but especially to schools. If I can get this into a curriculum, I think it would be a really good thing for schools. And not only for those that are, getting bullied, but the bullies. Why is it happening? And, what we can do to sort of bring it to a whole, so everyone can understand everyone, because everyone learns differently, everyone's home life is differently. So, yeah, I definitely want to take it global. Obviously, it's going to take time, but, through these promotions of speaking about it on podcasts like yourself, so thanks again. And,
Welcome.
appearing on other podcasts and having people do things like, writing articles, whatever I have to do to get the word out, because, it is unique. It is
Yes.
very unique in bringing those two together and knowing when to push and pull. It's not just, oh, you teach martial arts. It's knowing when to push and pull. Yeah, like I said, I don't always get it right, but, and also, if you don't get it right, apologize.
Sure, yeah, it's an individual
Own
approach.
it. Own it, because we're only people as well.
Very symbolic of a good mentality, of life, of growing. And I love the concept because not only do you have the background, you've been through it yourself, you overcame all of that, um, and but you're helping these kids start off on the right foot and then helping adults as well. But it's so valuable. So no, I definitely can see that. And
Thank you.
I'll be here to help however I can in the future. We'll help each other in the future.
Sure, for sure. Sounds good.
Definitely, definitely. And that's thank you again for coming on the podcast. I
No
appreciate
problem. Thanks for the invitation. It's lovely to finally speak with you.
thank you, Vic. I feel the same way. I'm just gonna end this and I'll still be here though. So that's for episode 21.